on the top of a hill here in Cornwall. I'm just thinking about moral authority, particularly as it relates to Christianity and atheism, and specifically how it relates to time, I think. Because I've listened to quite a few, videos by Christians, but also by atheists, and conversations between people who identify with those groups in relation to moral authority. And there seems to be a real difference about the relationship to time and the passage of time, and existence and creation and evolution and those kind of things. With Christians, it seems to me, and I'm talking about fundamentalist Christians here, by the way, or at least as I would, they may not self-identify as fundamentalists, but from my perspective, as a UK citizen, couched in or grounded in kind of mainstream Anglican faith, which is very, you probably say lukewarm, but I don't think it's lukewarm at all. It's just not fundamentalist in that kind of way. Christians who claim moral authority from God, but that moral authority, part of it, there's a number of features to it, part of it is to do with origins. God is the creator of the universe. God is the prime mover. God came first. God was there before the fall. And so moral authority is in the past. If you want to look for the source of moral authority, yes, of course, you might say God is active and around us in the world today, but it's an authority which is grounded in history, in cosmology, really. It goes back to the Garden of Eden, doesn't it, really? It's that kind of appeal to morality, a morality which is absolute because it's not just timeless or outside of space and time, but preceding space and time. It has that kind of, as I say, originating aspect to it. There's a sense of primacy about it. The beginning of the human journey began in a place where moral authority reigned. And to regain moral authority, I think, at least part of this myth goes, you would have to get ourselves back to the garden, as it says in the song. You know what I mean? That's the golden age when moral authority was what it was. But for non-Christians, for atheists, that narrative doesn't make any sense. If you accept evolution and take it seriously, then you have to think, well, where does moral authority come from in that picture? You can't look to the past, because the past is a place where there was no morality. There was, and still isn't. You can probably hear dogs barking in the background. Those dogs aren't barking because they're morally outraged. The dogs are barking because they're biological creatures with, all the sensibility that applies to them. But it doesn't make any sense to say that these dogs are moral. And our ancestors, evolutionarily speaking, were also not moral. Morality didn't even... It makes no sense from an atheist, sceptical position.
Morning.
Good morning. To talk about morality in that sense, to talk about our ancestors being moral. The further back in time you go, the more morality disappears from human sensibility and from the universe. There is no morality in the universe worthy of being called by that name, at least, prior to the evolution of human consciousness. Of course, we can look back now and we can imagine dinosaurs killing other dinosaurs and little horses, eohippuses, dying in the teeth of Tyrannosaurus. We can imagine that picture and apply moral statements to it. And if we had time machines and went back, we think, God, this place is vicious, or whatever. But without someone there to make those claims, there are no claims to be made. I'm not saying they weren't horrible from our perspective, and I think we were right to say those things are horrible now. But morality doesn't come into the picture as a thing to be able to be discussed until humans are around. So we can't look to the past for moral authority. We have to look to the present and possibly the future. We have to see the history of humankind as the dawning and the raising, sorry to split the metaphor halfway through a sentence, the dawning and the raising of moral consciousness, the developing of a moral sensibility. And it's presumably a moral sensibility that's still, a work in process, isn't it, really? We're still trying to work some of that stuff out. We're still trying to do things better. We're still fall, we still make mistakes, we're still not sure about some things, we might always be faced by moral dilemmas. It might be one of those things that's never perfect. But one thing's for sure, you can't look to the past for moral authority. The further back you go, the less moral behaviour you see, the less capacity for moral action you see. Certainly the less formulated moral principles are. So when Christians and atheists are talking about moral authority, I think, at least a lot of the time, Christians are bringing an understanding to the table which is very different to the understanding that atheists are bringing to the table. So it's little surprise in that case that, people talk past one another a lot of the time. They have a different relationship to time and the origins and where authority is located.